it's Edwin here, and today we are going to talk about self-gaslighting and how you emotionally abuse yourself after being in a toxic relationship. Gaslighting is a subtle manipulative technique where someone convinces you that your perception of reality is wrong. It makes you feel so confused and anxious to the point that you start doubting everything about you. You doubt your reality, your judgments, your memory, and your sanity. And self-gaslighting is a byproduct of being constantly gaslit. Self-gaslighting is like taking up the mantle from the gaslighter, which is happening externally, and gaslighting yourself on their behalf, which is now happening internally. So gaslighting happens externally when someone gaslights you, but self-gaslighting is where now like you gaslight yourself internally. It is where like you internalize the gaslighting behavior by minimizing, dismissing, or invalidating your own experiences and emotions to the point where you start questioning your perception of reality and doubt yourself. Self-gaslighting is a form of survival response for someone who's in a toxic relationship because it enables someone to suppress those painful emotions they are going through. With self-gaslighting, it's like you are talking down on yourself, which means that you are emotionally abusing yourself even before you are emotionally abused by a toxic person. It's like gaslighting on top of gaslighting. And that's why someone who's been in a toxic relationship will be more prone to self-gaslighting because they've been constantly called out and they've been constantly gaslighted to the point now that they start believing the words which the gaslighter is saying, and that tape constantly plays in their heads even after they've left that relationship. So if someone was constantly called, you are crazy, you are dramatic, someone has believed those words are true, and the tape which plays in their heads is now like, I'm crazy, I'm dramatic, or I'm sensitive. And the nature of society also like adds more fuel to self-gaslighting because we've been taught and we've been told that we need to minimize or dismiss some of our emotional experiences. So that's how self-gaslighting happens. So how do you know if you are gaslighting yourself? The first one is if you minimize or dismiss your experiences. This is where like you claim that your emotions or your feelings are not important or they are not a big deal. You might say something like, I'm just exaggerating, it's not a big deal. The second one is where like you extremely criticize yourself. You harshly criticize your reactions and even compare your reactions to someone else's and always feel that you should have done better. So it's more like you should yourself so much. You say something like, I have no reason to feel this way. I should have done better. Others have it worse than me. The third one is like you constantly question your own perceptions. This is where like you struggle separating between what's true and what's not. Even when you saw it with your own eyes, or even if you have evidence, you just feel that you are remembering things wrongly and you question your memory or judgments a lot. You might say something to yourself like, I must be seeing my own things, or I always remember things wrongly. The fourth one is you always excuse others. You excuse others for their undesirable behavior or even when they mistreat you. You might say something like, I know they love me and they didn't mean it like that. The fifth one is like you always assume the worst case scenario. You always think that there's nothing which can go right or there's nothing good which can happen in your life. You might say something like, nothing good can possibly happen to someone like me. The sixth one is like you blame yourself for everything. This is where like you take the blame for even things which are not within your span of control. You might say something like, it's all my fault. I always end up in these situations. And then there's this one, the seventh one, where like you think that there is something wrong with you. You always think that the problem is you and never them. You beat yourself up and you constantly question your own worth. You might tell yourself something like, there must be something wrong with me, with no apparent reason at all. The last one is like you call yourself names you'd never call another person. This is where like you call yourself all the terrible or the profane names like idiot, crazy, silly, stupid. You might tell yourself something like, These things only happen because of this, of how stupid I am, or the stupid me or the crazy me always find themselves in this situation. Like, you just call yourself stupid or crazy. Those are some of the signs of self-gaslighting in your life. So, how do you deal with self-gaslighting? Self-gaslighting is doing yourself more harm than good, as it involves you continuing the emotional tortures you were constantly exposed to by your abusive ex. The abusive ex planted that seed in you, and then now self-gaslighting is like watering those seeds. The first thing to do is to recognize and acknowledge what you are doing to yourself, and understand that you are in these situations, or you are calling yourself these names, or you are gaslighting yourself this way because that narrative was implanted in you by your past relationships. And once you see that inner voice and critic as not your own present truth, but a cloud of your past experiences, you can then like focus more on what's within your locus of control in your present life. For example, if that inner voice keeps telling you that it's all your fault, you can take some time and analyze the implication of that inner voice. Here's what you can do. You can write down the things which that inner voice is telling you as your fault. And then you sort them out instead, that you sort out the ones which are within your locus of control and things which are not within your locus of control. You will realize that that inner voice is feeding you with lies on even things that you cannot control, or even things that's beyond your control. But the thing is, it amplifies it to make it really feel that everything is all your fault. So it's just about bringing or building your awareness on the lies that inner voice is constantly feeding you. It's just like exposing those lies of your inner voice and bringing them to light. And the more you see that inner voice as just a harsh critic, the more you'll just realize that that's not who you are. And you also need to be compassionate and gentle with yourself when doing this, because self-gaslighting always leads to self-harm and deep self-hatred. Of course, as always, seeking help with this will be more effective, because you will get a great space where you can share without judgment, and where you can get to the root of the problem and deal with it. But actually, self-gaslighting can really hold you back, because it can stop you from even working on yourself, or it can even stop you from seeking help because you feel that you don't deserve the help, or you are not the kind of person who deserves to be given any help. So dealing with that inner critic is actually a great way to go in your healing journey. Hope you found this helpful, guys. As always, feel free to share, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, see ya.